What's up, everybody? It's Josiah Hawk. So this one's going to be a little bit of a historical take on Australia in the early days. So if you're not interested in any cool stories well, you don't think they're cool, obviously, but like history stuff, just bail on this video, skip it. I'm not offended. Oh, gee. Yeah, it's actually crazy. Like right now, I'm at a telegraph station from 1872. And yeah, I'm gonna talk about Australia in the early days. So if that interests you, enjoy the video. I really think this is kind of the last frontier of the whole world. In the Northern Hemisphere, specifically in Europe, they had this theory going around in the 1500s that was basically, there's too much land in the Northern Hemisphere, the planet would be spinning out of control if there wasn't a great Southland. And so the Pope actually commissioned this guy, Fernando de Quiros, a Portuguese sailor, to go discover the great Southland, Espiritu Santo Australis. So he sailed around Cape Horn, South America, and across the Pacific, and came to Vanuatu, which they named Espiritu Santo, the island on Vanuatu they were at. And he stood on that beach and he said over the whole region, Espiritu Santo Australis, and he put the Portuguese flag in the ground and declared it for the Pope. And yeah, it was kind of an astronomical moment. The problem was he wasn't on Australia, so when his crew realized that they didn't discover Australia, they killed him. They had a mutiny, took over. The boats got separated from some crazy storm. They re-met in Acapulco, which was their meeting spot in Mexico. And their new leader, Torres, took over. And he tried to discover Espiritu Santo Australis and discovered the Torres Strait Islands, which are literally 20 kilometers north of Cape York, Queensland. So he missed it by 20 kilometers. And if it wasn't for that, we'd probably all be speaking Portuguese here in Australia. Even the Dutch discovered it that same year, I think of 1506. And the Dutch basically came to Shark Bay, WA a couple months before Torres missed Cape York. And they basically got there and like it was like this. It was like a desert. It was like the sun and, and they're like going, well, there's no herbs and spices here. So what's the point of this? When Captain Cook came in 1770, 164 years after the Portuguese and the Dutch, he discovered the East Coast and claimed it for England and brought over the convicts. But the East Coast could actually grow stuff. Like it's the only part of Australia that's lush. Life was hard here, man. And it really was only about 50,000 people up until the 1850s when gold was discovered in Victoria. And then it went to 1 million people in that decade. So Australia was really built by the gold rush, if you think about it that way. But man, like, I guess just driving from Darwin to just north of Alice Springs right now, I'm just thinking about the barrenness. And if you've seen that movie Australia, this is where they did those cattle runs trying to get to Darwin. And I mean, I'm sitting here in this modern car. I got aircon. I'm getting living the dream, exploring the desert. But Australia wasn't desirable. Like when the English were choosing, hey, should we go to America where it actually rains? And they got the Mississippi Basin, like the largest arable farmland on the planet. Like the farmland of America is by far the best on the planet, which is why it's the richest country, because it was really built on the backbone of farming. And you don't move to a desert You don't care about the beach when you don't have money to eat. So yes, Australia has beautiful beaches, but that's a very modern thought. Like that's not a thought people would have had. It's not like, let's go to Australia to go to the beach. It's like, no, we need to survive. Like we're leaving England because it's hard to eat here, and let's go somewhere. Well, where are we gonna eat? The States, Canada. Even though they got brutal winters, at least it rains. Whereas this is like it's an outback, man. I'm in the outback, and life was hard. We're currently 1,000 kilometers south of Darwin here, and it's the middle of the outback, man. And these guys used to have to run cattle to sell it to ships once a year. That's what the movie Australia is about. And I just can't get over how hard life must have been here, man. Like it's treacherous desert. Like it's the third largest desert on the planet. Antarctica, Sahara, outback. It's bigger than the Arabian Desert. Absolutely insane. And it's formidable. There's no water. There's hardly any rain. It rains like 3 days a year out here. So it's absolutely crazy how, but people live like this. This was their house. That's their stove. This is their kitchen, their dining room. These white walls and the tin roofs to reflect the sun. Far out. I just respect what these early Australians did. Really battled for life, you know? I don't know, man. Australia, these roads are crazy. So I made it up to the Kings Canyon. Just wanted to conclude this off that the reality is this country, this area that I'm in, is so gnarly that it is like, I was literally not afraid, but I was actually a little bit like, man, how's this actually gonna go? I haven't felt like that since a trip I did to Kauai, where I was planning on doing the Nepali coast. And I remember just before getting on the plane, it was like, far out, this feels like, I actually feel a little bit kind of afraid. Like this, I respect this land. It's a harsh final frontier, man. And it's not for the faint-hearted. So, man, yeah, that's a little bit of history about Australia. Hope you enjoyed this video. Jesus loves you guys. You guys are amazing. Thanks for watching. If you like it, throw me a like down below. Subscribe if you're keen on seeing more videos. And as always, keep it real, guys. Love ya. I literally just spent $2.17 per liter for fuel right here. That's pretty heavy, but it was the only fuel in 190 kilometers, so you're kind of forced. So I filled out, man, only $75 for 35 liters. Not bad.